Onegaishimasu.
Onegaishimasu.
Okay, just stop.
Michael, put yourself in focus, please.
Oh, sorry.
Not loud.
1 second. Technical difficulties. Okay. So just start nice loosening. Hopefully, there wasn't too much stress yesterday. Watch quite laid back. So hopefully the body's okay. Just checking. Especially the shoulders and knees. Just working a little bit. Maybe too. I'm just putting the hands up and shake them up. Don't kind of do anything with them, just kind of just want to have them up and just see if you can kind of pass this kind of vibration through the body. Just there. Just there. Okay, keep going. Good. Good, that's it. Good. And just go as much as you can with the arm, try and release it. So try and find the elbows quite relaxed. So you're going to get a kind of and find the wrist is also quite relaxed. You'll probably find the wrist is more relaxed than the elbow, and that the elbow is more relaxed than the shoulder. See if you can get as much as you can at the joint, nice and loose. You just experiment a little bit with it being the arms being up, maybe to the side.
Morning.
Hey, morning now. A little bit to the back. And then just bring them out to the side. Just there. Keep the body kind of bouncing. Keep the shoulders moving as well. And then just bring it down. Keep the arms moving. Have them a little bit to the front. And start to feel you can kind of start to really center the body. Do you feel that the hands are being affected by the center? Totally. Start to feel you can weight the body back now. So you're not going to kind of bring the toes up. Just feel you can kind of drop the weight. Keep the back open long. Head nice and long as well. Okay. And then slowly just start to come down to the ground. And just keep the same movement. So draining down into the feet. Release through the head. And just see if you can start to affect the hands again. Again, loosen the arms from the shoulder down. Just feel everything loosening. Shoulder, elbow, hand. And especially now you can really release through the head. Just pay a little bit of attention to what's happening in the neck, the head. Just see if you can release more and more of the spine as you do it. Just keep going. Good. Just feel the weight of the whole spine get kind of drawn down. That's it. Good. Great. Okay, and then don't come back up. Just listen to what I'm saying. You're just gonna swing the arms through, so through the legs and out. So just start quite small. You're just gonna swing through the legs and then out. And try and feel, once you can kind of get the idea of the exercise, see if you can really get the hips to make the movement. So really feel the hips connecting through the knees and then sinking it into the feet. And then just let the hands follow that movement. Keep the top of the body relaxed, lengthened, and just start to increase the movement. So make a bigger movement with the hips, more weight sinks down into the feet, and then the arms come up higher. Just a little bit higher. just until you can get the arms to like a kind of 90-degree out. Out. But don't bring the body up yet. Keep the spine long. So you've got the full range of motion now in the shoulder, front, back. And then just start to now increase, what you're going to do is bring the pelvis up. So draw the pelvis up, and now the body's going to come up to a vertical. Slowly. And each swing get more and vertical, more and more. It's a little bit like you've got a kettlebell. If you've done any kettlebell training before. Swing it up, let it drop. Swing it up, let it drop. And now just come fully to a vertical each time. And let the weight just sink. And keep the hands in the center of the body. Just focusing on the rest of the body. Just let the hands follow. And then you're going to drop the hands to the side now. So you're going to split the hands. And then we're into this swing that we used to kind of do. And now really you're going to drop the hips. Drop the hips into the feet. And try and feel this is really like an energetic swing. So it's got a kind of rising feeling and then a sinking feeling. Rising up, sinking. And just let the whole body be heavy all the time. Heavy, 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 heavy. Start to use the breath as well. So you will probably find the easiest is to kind of breathe in as you come up and out as you come down. But you can experiment a little bit with it. Okay, just keep going a little bit. Just gonna watch. Okay, good. Nice. That's it. Nice. Okay, Deal asked this question about the neck yesterday, so I've been messaging also about this and looking at some videos about it as well. But this whole neck area in this exercise, just watch one thing. What there's a tendency to do in this kind of relaxed movement is to do this with the head. So let the head up. Now this is okay if I do this in a fully kind of dynamic way, and I do like this, where the whole spine's going to go and down. But in this case, see this, you can do that exercise. And if you like, try it like this. So you do a full, sometimes you'll see this in yoga classes, but they'll come down and then the arms will come to the back and then come back up. And this is like a full big energetic swing. In this case, what I tend to do with this exercise is it's a bit more related to BOKKEN work for me. So it's like this and then this. So what I'm looking for in the body is like a long spine, and the neck to be included in that, but not kind of drop down and collapse. So the difference between that and that, where I just let the neck sit on the body. There. So you just experiment a little bit with it. So if you this head thing's okay as long as I'm doing the full range. There's a point where the head will need to curl to do it. But in this case, I'm using a bit more like a kind of sword cutting exercise. But just explore that range. That's it. There we go. Yeah. Good. Nice. That's it. Perfect. Nice. Good. Okay, just try one thing, which feels a bit stupid, but there's one thing that what I can do without noticing. I can drop it and actually go to one side. So I can without really knowing about it, go drop more to one side than the other. So in this case, just for you to do this, you come up, and then I just drop one side. Come up, just drop one side, And the other hand, I'm just going to kind of rest on the head here, just kind of here. And then I just decide whether to drop one or the other. So it's a really conscious decision to drop to one side. And what I want you to feel is that you don't drop the body to one side, but you let the body sink down. Regardless, the body does the same thing. The body's always going to do done. So sometimes do one side, sometimes do the other, sometimes do none, and then sometimes do both. But I really feel that each time the body does exactly the same thing. And I don't really care what the arm does. But the body just gonna drop. And I want to avoid being unknowingly kind of coming off center. Just play with it a little bit.
Michael.
Yo!
In all those drops, you're doing the same hip work. You're not dropping the hip to one side. You just
No. Yeah.
Okay.
All the same. We'll just drop the hip straight down, just directly down. In this case. Yeah. Okay, good. It's always interesting when you do this stupid, when you do a stupid exercise, it actually reveals a lot about the body as well. So just watch this. What's happening a little bit now is this is happening. So this is almost automatic because if I'm connected, or if I'm working on connection, that the hip will want to kind of go back, come this way. But in this case, I really feel this is like a Shomanuchi work, but it's like I'm just going to stabilize the hip down. So it's the So my priority in this case is not the hand, it's the hips. And my feeling is that the hips just hit the ground, regardless of what the hand does. So in this case, I'm not going to let the hip be affected by the hand, which is doing this. You see that? This is okay, but this is a different exercise. This is following the hip this way. In this case, really feel that the hip's going to do this. You're doing this kind of thing. And to make it really clear, come to this position, raise up, and then come to tiny henko position. And again, really feel that the body's going to be grounded. And then if you find this position, and then just release the arms. It's the same. So go and all the time the hips do the same thing, which is this, which is the sword hook, which is the tiny henko, which is the ikkyo. It's all these kind of movements where I'm applying the hips in a pretty direct way. Bit of a stupid exercise, but nice to play with. That's it. There we go. Yeah. So this is actually about settling the hip. It's not really about the arms. You can do really what you like with the arms in this case, within reason. That's it. There we go. Yeah. Very nice. Oh, bam. Yeah, and just play now with swinging through, placing, and then focusing. Good. Nice. Nice. Good. Okay, good. So a lot of the work I'm doing at the moment, also personally, is sword work, trying to unlock the body work, so, and how to train the body, because we don't have partners, most of us, we don't have anything else. So how do we get the most out of the weapons training? Because we can do the weapons training in a way that's just practicing suburi work, and we'll get nothing else out of it. We'll just get better at the suburi, maybe a little bit. But I'm actually more interested in getting a little bit more out of the training. So in this case, this is in a way working like this Shomanuchi work. This. So what I want you to do now is work like this. So you do something else now with the hands. So you're working in like a koku position. Keep the hips still the same. We're going to explore the hips a little bit more, but just keep the sense that the hips going to now. There's a little bit more activity in the hip, which is basically like a kind of folding. You can think of it as a folding, you think of it like a tilting. But I'm basically going to tilt the body in. Now, the first few do this really in a way which is quite straight. Now, later this is going to bend, but just get the sense that you're going to do this. Just out. Just this, just out. down, and do it a little bit robotically. So it's like this. You can also play with the hands a little bit just to make it more extreme. Thumbs. That's it. And the main thing now is get the hands listening to the hips. So I want the hips to go, and I want the hands to follow. Right. And the first thing is just tie them together. So I get the hip and the hand, hip, hand, hip, hand. And the easiest rule to think is you can't move the hand unless you move the hip. So unless the hip is engaging, don't move the hand. That's it. That's it. So it's quite a simple exercise again, but quite valuable. Okay. So just exaggerate this a little bit. You're going to come from this position. You're slightly more open. So I'm in a really open position, and then what you're going to do is like draw everything down. So you're going to open out, and then from here, this is really like what we did yesterday with the sword. When you've got a position like this, and then you're drawing into the kamae. It's got this kind of feeling. Just keep the feet as they are, and we're going to just open the footwork out. But just start from here, very open, and then feel that you engage the core. Engage the core, and then bring the hands down. This. So that the feeling is like the whole back is engaged in the movement. So I want you to feel like really the back of the body goes, and then the hands are basically loaded into the back. So it really feels flexible. But it should feel like this whole area, this, and around the back is engaged forward. Like this. That's it. So this is actually, the problem with this exercise is that it's actually designed for the hip to be engaged at the same time. So what I want you to do now is do the same thing, get to this position, and then I want you to just pick a side, drop into the hip this way. So you're going to come always back to, you can play with this position. You can be quite wide or quite open or quite narrow, but get to this position and then feel that you drain again down, pick a side, and then drop the body in. And then just come back. You might find it easy to be quite in a neutral position. So you've got this, and then just drop the hip in. Don't worry about the angle that you go to, just worry about going into the hip and settling the hands. And really come out to it this way, each time really neutral. And the idea with this position, if you think like the sword, why we go to the back with the sword, this is really to open the shoulders out, really access the back. And then what I want to do is drain everything down and out. Draw to the back and then press it forward this way. And then really again, let the hands communicate the hip work. Yeah. Just play with this a little bit. That's it. Nice. So in this case, just think, if you think about this structure of the arm from the elbow down to the forearm, when we talk about spirals, really go into spiral work with this whole area. So obviously the spiral is passing from the hip, but basically this area needs to be working in a spiral like this. So it needs to be moving really flexibly like this. The moment I lock the joint like this, you see like this, the movement goes like this. But really feel in this case, there's a spiral that drops through that whole part. So just exaggerate this a little bit, but it's like this. And that should always be, even though when the movement's static, the movement should feel very fluid. So it should always have this quality like this. And this is really exaggerated when we do this Joe work and we do this kind of movement. But this kind of spiral that runs through this part of the arm is really extreme. If you think about it like a wave, the best way to think about it is like a wave. if you imagine this is the tip of the wave, then that part of the wave is the most flexible, and it's got the most kind of energetic, visually energetic part of the wave. So that part of the hand is the most, it's got the most flexibility in a way. That flexibility again is coming from the hip. There. So just play with that a little bit. Like there. Good. That's it. So, and this is like from a formal position, like gang, 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 gang. Now just play a little bit looser, and just feel that you can kind of do this. And this is like working with the Zengo giri now. So it's like this, roll to the back, this, roll to the back, gang, roll to the back, gang. And really focusing on the hip work, the footwork, hip work. And again, even though it's slow, do it with this kind of full feeling. So it's got to really sense that the whole body's engaged. Also, the breath is really involved in it. So really try and engage the whole body through the movement. So it's got a kind of very slow, heavy feeling to it. Let's watch a few. Nice. That's it. Good. Okay, the most important distinction to make, as well as from the sword work, if you think, I've lost my sword, where's my sword? I'm going to show you where the jet. I don't know where my sword is. But, so in this case, the main distinction with the sword work is not to push. So the first thing that we tell people not to do is really not to push out, not to kind of cast out like this. So that applies also to the koku work. The main thing to do is that the main thing to know is that it's not a push out. So it's not dun, 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 dun. It's not a pushing movement. It's a spiraling movement that comes from an arcing position. So it's the same with the sword work. It's an arc that I attach the body to this. And then the koku work is a spiral that I attach the body to. So it's actually nothing to do with pushing out. It's everything to do with kind of expansion, spiraling. This is why you can do it without moving. But it's not to do with pushing something forward. It's to do with expanding out. Think about blowing a balloon up. It's got vroom. And that expansion obviously comes from the center. Just play a little bit with that while I find my bokken. Great. Good. Okay, so we'll just combine those two movements together now. So what you're going to do is just come into the tiny ankle, so sinking the weight down, dropping into the body, and really getting again the sense of a kind of impact, percussion with the hips. And then what you're going to do is I want you to play with two things, either rolling forward, pressing out, or coming to the tiny ankle position and rolling back this way. The back's much harder. So you'll probably find that I'm usually quite front loaded. If I do this in a way that's not really balanced, I tend to be kind of quite front loaded. And then the forward motion is quite easy because I just fall into it. So play a little bit with the forward motion. It feels quite natural and it feels quite nice to kind of press through. And then match that every once in a while. Try and match it to really balance the body out. Feel that I can just roll the body back. And the movement's the same, but it's much more complex. So just play a little bit with this rolling tiny henko. Either rolling forward and then coming back, or rolling back, expanding out. There we go, good. And again, this is not about handwork, it's about hip work. So really put all the focus what the hips are doing and what the feet are doing, how the feet are supporting the hips. Just that. That's it. Nice. That's great. So this exercise for me really has a feeling like when we do these kind of exercises, like a shomanuchi and a ski, like this. So these kind of movements where I'm doing those kind of things, where you're really impacting the body down, the hips down, down, and then what I do is ride that feeling of being solid, and I press it forward or I roll it back. So these kind of movements where you use number 7. But just really think that the main thing from that exercise with the sword work is that I really use the impact from the sword. So it's like, really get that sense of this solid. And then from here, just release everything. So it's going from this feeling now with the kihon where you've got a very solid, right? And then from here, I release it. And then I come back into a kind of full extension with the body. So just play a little bit with this where you're really gonna feel that you find the impact. So there's a really kind of percussive movement in the hip. Bang, and then release it. So just make the most of that kind of tiny ankle position. And the more I can do that, the easier the second move will be. So the more I can just ground the body down. That movement almost becomes inevitable. So it's just going to follow from that. Bam! And then I just move. There we go. There we go. Great. Nice, nice, nice. Nice. Good. This is really like a kind of kihon exercise. So coming into the form and then moving into this one. What I want you to do now is something different. So things will start to change in this one. So just watch this. You go back and then fluidly move through here and then come back. So this is all going to be one movement now. So what I want you to do is like this. And I'll show this really slow, but hopefully you can see things are different. It's like this. So now in this, to make it really clear, there's no stop here with the tiny ankle, and then this really is becoming fluid now. So you roll the body back, and then you find this position. So you roll back. So this all becomes one motion now. Okay, give it a try. Okay. So I think the best way to think about this is think about the motion or the static position. Again, it's a movement where I can just move from. So it's got this quality where I want the connection to be instant, or I want the movement to be instant from this to this, releasing. Now, when you come to a fluid position, that moment gets blended totally into the form. So it's not the case of doing now this. This is still basic. So this is still really basic. It's just that I've cut the pause out. So it's as if I took the video and I cut the pause out of it and then I played it. But what you want to do is blur those motions. So it's like putting a trend. So if you do video pressing, it's like blurring the transition rather than just cutting it, if that makes any sense. If any of you do video editing, I do video editing. In this case, what you want to do is to get a sense that that motion to that is not gung gung, but it's got this kind of quality. Now to find that movement is quite tricky, but just get the sense that you can do that. And if you want to play with it, just keep the feet down and just go. Yeah, just play with it. But it's got a totally different feeling than the other one. Totally different. Yeah, good. That's it, nice. Much nicer. Yeah. Now it's much more fluid. And then the hips can basically work really through the hands without a kind of stopping motion. Yeah, that's it. Great, Bernie, good. That's it. Okay, good. Everyone's got it. Good. Okay, and then we come to a really active Kokyu position. So just think about Muro to go Kokyu, just dropping the hand in, finding the center, and then spiraling through it, really grounding the foot, and then pressing up, roll into the back, really hips open. Again, you want to really communicate that to the hips. So just think about, again, all this work, flexible, this is flexible, working with a spiral, finding the center line, dropping the weight, and then find the spiral. And then from here, press it back, open it out, back, and then just come back. So just play both sides, but really doing a way really quite static. Keep this. And really check all the time in those positions the hips are stable. 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 That's it. And see if you can, without having used the sword this morning, see if you can access the sword work. Because you've all have a lot of time, a lot of experience with using the sword. Just see if you can access the sword work in it without having the sword or having used the sword in the last 20 minutes or so. Just see if you can find it. Where's the sword in the movement? How do all those saburi work that we do, how does that relate to this movement? There we go. Nice. Nice. Okay, so a few things to think about. Really what we were looking at on Sunday, if you think about the center line of the body attached to the center, so if you think of this whole line that runs through the body, now one of the key points of this technique is that I draw everything into that center line. So the whole body, the whole extension, the center, everything drops into that point. It's like this. It's just the same feeling you get in Tanahendo. I want to draw the center into the movement. So in this case, you're going to do it, but you're going to do it by dropping the spiral in. So feel that this whole area does this. It's got this kind of quality. Everything's going to drop down and spiral. Now, my ability to do that whilst taking the center line is how I basically find the movement. So I want to sink into the center, and this is for me where the sword work comes into it. This, and then raising the sword. So it's sinking, gathering, and then raising, pressing out. Now, obviously, the movement's because it's handwork, but try and get the sense that the coming into the sword raising the sword. And I'm really, in this case, taking the center line. You obviously don't have a partner, but I'm going to go into the center line and then spiral out this way. So just play with this. You might find this easier to do the right side, because the right side's the, in a way, the kind of sword, the sword side. Let's play with it a little bit. There we go. Just be really aware of the center line of the body. Yeah, good. 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 So in a way, that first spiral is like the raising of the sword. Yes. And the second spiral is the dropping, the cutting of the sword, or the. It's better to think of it like an impact. So if I think of it like a percussive impact, the hips dropping something into the ground, then I'll get more relevance to this exercise. So you've got the first one, which is kind of spiraling up, raising, and then from here you're going to gather it up. This is still the extension, the raise, and then from here really feel that you've dropped the weight in. So it's got this sense of the cut. And the cut is the thing that we practiced before. Boom, this body work. Boom. It's just much more complex now because you're doing it at the same time. So think about, if you like, you can just play with this position and then just dropping the hips in to the back. And really feel that you chain the whole movement together from the hips. And the feeling is really to press it down. Again, you're going to impact the ground with the hips. And this is how you basically, this is, if you think about unlocking the cut from the sword work into this movement. Nice. Whoosh. Okay, so the big problem with the koki work, or the challenge with the koki work, is unlocking the sword work, but making it much more circular. So the sword work is really sharp. It's got this kind of sharp, very simplistic method of using the body. And then when I come into koki work, it's much bigger. So it's much bigger and it's much more circular, and the spirals are much clearer. So just look at this. The main problem with this movement is it's related to the sword work, is doing it with the periphery. And then the center lags behind it. So if you think of the technique like a circle, I can do the technique by drawing the hands around the circumference of the circle and allowing that to be the technique. Or I can think about the center of the circle and rotating the circle from this point. So I think much more about the center here affecting the periphery. So I think about, if I imagine the body is like a circle, and this is the point of the center of the circle, I imagine this, bang, bang, rather than the center, rather than the circumference of the center, rotating the center, if that makes sense. So I want the center to affect the hands directly. If I take a circle and I spin it from the center, all the periphery spins anyway. I don't need to think about it. Like a wheel on a bike, it just goes around. If I try and move it from the outside, I get into problems. So just think about centralizing it. And again, center to periphery, center, periphery. And that's up as well as down. That's hands as well as feet. So hands and feet. Right from the center. And the more specifically, or the more clearly I can feel the center and locate it in the body, the more efficient this movement will be, or the more effective it will be. So really get a clear sense of the center. Right in the center of the body. That's it, nice. That's it, nice, really nice, great. Yeah, much nicer. So for me, the benefits of the trainer, the main one is, one of the good ones is it looks much better. It looks less stressful. It looks less robotic. So it actually looks more beautiful. in a sense, it's one of the reasons I do Aikido, because it's quite beautiful. It's quite an artistic, it's quite a really beautiful, expressive art. So in a way, I want something that's more beautiful than kind of robot dancing. Now, robot dancing is fine, but I don't really like robot dancing. So I prefer something much more flexible, much more fluid. So just go now into the feeling. You're gonna do the movement now as one thing. So imagine your whole body like this, and try and get this. There's some kind of, you need a kind of expressiveness which comes from fluidity. Now, if I watch myself, all I see is rigidity. I see static rigidity from years of static training. So what I'm always trying to look for is like dancers, people that are mobile, and how do they use the spine flexibly? And I try and feed off that kind of feeling, but try and get this sense where the body's something much more fluid, much more flexible. And that usually doesn't come from Aikido people. Maybe some, the few Aikido people are really flexible, fluid, but most of that inspiration comes from dancers, from people who can really fluidly use the body. Sometimes martial artists, very rare. Just get this feeling now. You can fluid, one thing. That's it. Really energetic. Nice. Nice. Good. Nice. Great. Okay, so the last few minutes of this, just start with the tiny henko. So coming to this, find the tiny henko. You can either go forwards or backwards. Come into here, and then go to the Martialarts. And then just come back. So you go tiny henko, and you let everything kind of fall together. So one movement, and then the Martialarts, one movement. And then come back. So you've got 3 pieces. Try and make them one thing. 1, 2, 3. And then back. 1, 2, 3. And just make the body more and more flexible for it. Yeah. That's it. Good. Very nice. I could just try this a little bit. I call this sometimes like the adolescent phase. You need to go into a bit of a stomping phase. So one of the problems with everything goes to the arms. I start to put arms, and everything falls away from the center. The lower body's doing nothing. So to give the lower body something to do, be careful, don't annoy the neighbors or anything. When you do this now, really just feel that you're gonna stamp the body in. So I'm gonna really press the and when I come in this position, I'm really going to kind of stamp through the body, stamp through the body, and just feel that I give the feet a little bit more to do. So you can do this I'm doing this really comically exaggerating, but really get the sense that you're going to have slightly more feeling over and dropping through the feet. And I think about sumo wrestlers when they do stomping, but this kind of quality. Done. So think about something that's quite percussive, impacting with the feet. It's basically to give the feet something to do, because sometimes they feel kind of left in movement. What do we do? Just play with it a little bit. You might find this quite tricky actually. We're not used to raising the legs so much in Aikido. So I came into Aikido through kickboxing, so I was really used to dropping the weight into the legs, right, and kicking out, these kind of things. So if you think about when you do these kind of movements, if I can't really raise the leg off the ground, then I'm not really grounded in that foot. If I can't really do it, and if I try to raise it, and shit, I can't raise it. Oh shit. So what I need to do is be much more grounded in this side of the body. So I need to feel like I can raise the leg. It should be quite easy. So if I'm really compressing into the body, this side, this foot should feel quite loose. And until I go to ground it, then I press the weight into that leg. And then I go out this way. So just play a little bit with the feet, slightly exaggerate the footwork a little bit. But imagine you can kick during the technique. So I imagine all the time I should really fundamentally be able to use the whole part, every part of the body. So I should really be able to kick all the time. Right? We do these kicks sometimes when we do Shihonage, but very rarely in the dojo. Right. Okie dokie. Good, right. Okay, take a bokken. We're going to do a little bit of bokken. Sometimes it helps. We're going to go a little bit like what we did yesterday, but we're going to go straight into the Shihonage form. So what I want you to do is slice out to the right side, and then from here just take everything through and down onto the left side. A little bit more active. Just find this, you're going to right side forward, and then you're going to slice out, right side, and then draw the whole body through, step through, and you finish on the left side in this case. You're going to slice to the right, draw through, cut to the back. Really, this is Shihonage. So if you get confused, just think about Shihonage. So. There we go. Nice, nice, nice. Like it. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. And what we didn't do yesterday, because I really didn't have time to do it, is both sides. So in this case, you start right side. Now you're going to go to the left, slice to the left side, and then from here, turn through, and now you finish on the right side. So you can separate this out. If you want, you can the left side, draw the body back. Left side, draw the body back. So all the time I always start this on the right side, so because that's just how the sword is. So start this on the right side and just play with the left side and play also with the right side. Yeah. Really nice move to do with the hips and the whole body. Nice. Okay, so we've got one problem that we got from the taijutsu, from the Shihonage. It's too focused on one person. So when I do the movement Shihonage, all I focus on is this person. And kind of throw the hands around. And usually we work with sometimes a little bit of resistance, or we've got a stiff partner. My focus all goes to that person to kind of, and it becomes quite small in that direction to one person. But if you think about the application of this in sword work, I'm going to slice someone here to the front, and then there's someone behind me, and I cut them to the back. So the Shihonage naturally has a flexibility of my awareness. You get someone to the front and someone to the back. I need to include both people in the movement. So think now much more about slicing someone here and then slicing someone to the back. But this is not about a kind of the Shihonage is not really about just one person. It's about multiple attackers. These exercises are best done with 2 people. So if you can imagine 2 people in front, I can slice this guy, and I slice this guy. Or I just engage 2 points in the house. So I slice this wall, and then I think about the wall behind me. And I engage the wall to the back. So just play with this, but really opening your awareness, front and back. Multiple opponents. It's one of Aikido's strengths, which a lot of martial arts do not cover, which is multiple attackers. Just slightly open the movement out. That's it, Caroline. Good. Very nice. Very nice. Good. Yeah. Very nice. Okay, so what I want to do now is play with one thing. So as well as flexible, Shihanage is naturally a kind of flexible technique because it's about engaging multiples. And then if you think about Uruwazu Shihanage, this is really a complex turning movement. And this is really, this in a way heightens the flexibility or makes the flexibility much more. It gives you much more options. It gives you many more options this way. So now think about if you come into an Uruwazu, I would draw the body in, rotate around, and then cut to the back this way. So this is not only about changing direction, but it's about going to any direction. So if you think about Shihonage, we talk about 4-direction technique, Shiho 4, but it's actually about any direction. When we talk about Happogiri 8 directions, it's actually about engaging every direction or any direction. So don't necessarily think about, you don't need to do anything, you don't need to do it specifically, although that's valuable. But think about the Uruwazu basically as a full rotating movement. So if you think about the Uruwazu and the Shihonage, coming in, rolling through, and then cutting to the back this way. You think about that kind of motion. Just see if you can apply it now here. And then I think about fully rotating the body and engaging that. And just play with it. So see if you can unlock the Uruwazu. Really difficult footwork. Yeah, I've really got to be pretty balanced to do it, and enjoy being not balanced. It's good for the training. Good. Okay, good. So naturally, some of you are trying to make it easier, and I'm going to try and make it a bit harder for you because a lot of you are doing like this. This is like the Ikkyo, which is okay, it's hard enough, but this is a bit more difficult. You remember with the Shihonage, you're going to pass underneath it this way. So you're always, in this case, you're going to, from this way, you're always going to pass underneath the sword this way. But I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do the sword right this way, if that makes sense. So you've got, in this case, you've got Ikkyo kind of movement, which would be like this, and this inch between the Shihonage, which comes underneath this way, comes underneath. So see if you can access that. Much more difficult. The Ikkyo is hard enough, but Shihonage, really tricky move. But you're going to go underneath the sword. That's it. So if you were going over, try and go under. That's it. And if you're totally confused, think of the bokken like the arm of an uke. And imagine the bokken's the arm, and you pass underneath it. So I have the arm, and then I pass underneath it, and roll to the back. So the bokken, here's the arm, I pass underneath it, roll to the back. There we go. Nice. And just play with opening the angle. So the more rotation you can do, the more free you are. So play with engaging different angles now. So slicing out. Okay, good. So one of the criticisms you might hear about Aikido is that we do too much movement. We rotate too much, and it's ineffective. In an engagement, I mean very short movements, and they're going to be like, and in Aikido we spend a lot of time doing these big rotating movements, and it's really, if you look at it from a martial perspective, superficially, it's very inefficient. But there's a big problem with movement, because I need to always be able to engage everything at any time. So what these practices teach you is really a flexible movement. The moment I unlocked this kind of idea in Aikido was, I used to play rugby in school, but when I could apply the rugby, so you've got a line, if you imagine a line of people really aggressively trying to stop you, and I can run at them and I can spiral through them like this. So I could disappear straight through the line. And that's when I realized, oh, this movement actually works. It has applications. So the ability to rotate and switch the body basically confuses people as well. So in a martial engagement, I need to be able to move it to any position, regardless. And a lot of the people, if you think about it, you're always going to have objects in the way. So we usually train in a dojo with no objects, nothing. When we're training in our houses, we've got a few more things, but we tend to push everything away. But if you think about an engagement, there will be things blocked. My way will be blocked. So I need to, in a way, be able to engage the body in different directions. So this teaching is actually, if you can unlock it, it's actually really, really important and very useful for especially multiple, or situations where you've got multiple objects, not just an object in front of you, or not just an attacker in front of you. So just think about now, just open the movement out a little bit, and just feel that you can challenge yourself a little bit, and imagine that parts of the path are blocked, or there's objects in the way, or you can actually put objects in the way. You can have a chair, and how do I navigate around it? I can't do it by being direct. I need to roll around it. So just play a little bit with this idea. And if you like later, you can do with furniture. Children / dogs, cats are good because they're also alive. They move unpredictably. So just play without the sword, obviously. Maybe with, if you've got control. But just play with this a little bit. And imagine parts of your path are blocked. And how do I navigate around it? And you're going to do it by flexibly moving the body. And rotating is one of the best ways to do it. Just imagine. Oh, good. There we go. Good. Push. There we go. Great. Okay, good. So we're going to stop there. So play with this on your own. This is a really nice exercise to do, and we'll kind of expand on this the rest of this week. But this is really about these kind of. If you think about these Shiho Hapogiri, they're very quite boring exercises, even though they're quite nice movements for the hips. They're in a way quite boring, but if you can unlock the idea of them, which is about this kind of engaging different directions and flexibly moving the body to engage different directions, they're actually very useful practices. So yeah, okay, we'll start. Hey, どうもありがとうございます。
どうもありがとうございます。Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.